We're
Cool.
live. All right.
All right.
So, hi everyone. Welcome to our third podcast. Today's the draft day special. And draft is only what, 4 days away now?
Yep.
Yep.
Raise
It was
away.
telling me right now.
It was myself, Adam, or Sweet 44722, with James and Arun. James is
Lunatic.
also Paul McCartney, and yeah, Arun is Runatic 5.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi. My name is Arun.
Feel free to join us on the thread on Reddit. If you go to reddit.com/r/EdmontonOilers, join our thread there. You can message us questions. There's also Twitter. We have the Oilers Nation, or sorry, the Oilers podcast Twitter going. So feel free to message us questions. All right.
Cool.
So starting right off, Dellow is being retained by the team, but is moving into a more of a management advisory role. How do you guys think this changes things, and do you guys think it's a good idea?
I'm not 100% sure what it's actually going to change. I'm interested to see how he's going to affect the team going forward, or what level of authority that he's got. I posted earlier this week that I was pretty happy that they were keeping him. I mean, he's not the reason why they came in 28th place, and he's a pretty smart guy and really, really opinionated. But as far as like a management advisory role goes, as opposed to analytics consulting, I don't know if that's where he fits. So I am a little tentative. I'm a little iffy about it. I think he should have stayed exactly where he was, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm sort of along the James's route on that, where I think that on the whole, I think advanced stats in the game right now should be used more effectively, just pretty much across the board, both in like the scouting, pro scouting, drafting, along with managing lines and giving minutes to who should be giving minutes and the young sung heroes and whatnot. That being said, I do think that he's in a position where the organization is going to be less likely to grab players that are not going to be successful with the organization, mostly because they have had, say, inflated numbers or inflated stats or whatnot on other teams, just because they were given sheltered minutes and everything was really well hidden and people couldn't pay attention. So in that sense, having Dellow in a more of a management-like role would be more effective. But that being said, I'm happy that he's staying with the organization.
Yep, I'd have to agree. I think it'd be stupid to waste someone like that. I mean, he's so gifted with the numbers, and he's obviously a very, very, very good analytics expert. And I think it'd be more effective to have him in a management role. I mean, there were people saying he had input on Fane and Pouliot's acquisitions, which, if true, is obviously huge because they're one of the better players on the team this year.
Yeah,
So
that's one thing I actually want to talk about really quickly, is that in a lot of these things, there's a lot of like speculation on what's right, what's real, and what's not. So that's
yeah,
what puts everything in sort of a question mark instead of like, oh, it's absolutely great and nothing can possibly go wrong.
yeah, there's never really guaranteed, is it? I mean, like we can hear. I mean, we heard crap about how Hall was a gigantic douchebag and he's a horrible person. And then there was the thread, I think it was a month ago, where he's taking time out to travel 3 hours to another city to do a charity thing for some kid because he heard that he was having a hockey game. And then there's he was releasing and saying that he's actually a very shy person but doesn't show it. And like
Mhm.
you know, that's not really related at all to this Dello thing, but it's kind of along the lines of what we hear and what we know are two completely different things.
Mm-hmm.
And highlighting on that, there's also like a double standard between a team that's winning and a team that's losing. Like Taylor Hall's party hard attitude that people said that he had was like a big deal. Meanwhile, Patrick Kane drinking $13 of expensive champagne after winning the Stanley Cup is sort of like, oh yeah, you go, Kaner.
Yeah, I guess because he's entertaining as a personality, right?
Mhm.
So it's supposed to be like if you have a personality that's more acceptable,
winning
to
changes everything.
Yeah, it does.
Like, winning changes everything. As soon as the Oilers start to win, we will not care if they're partying at 6 in the morning on a Tuesday. Like, winning changes everything. They have the ground that they walk on worshipped as it is. So I don't know, and they suck. Like they're pretty
God.
bad. So once winning gets going here, I think that it'll be it's
A
gonna
different makeup.
yeah, for sure.
Cool. Let's go on to the next point then.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, so next one is coaches. Obviously, Nelson was hired by the Griffins when he chose to part ways with the Oilers. I think it was yesterday it was official. I think he was hired.
Yeah.
Pretty recently.
Yeah, so obviously Nelly is a no-go for the assistant coaches, but what do you think about Nelson going to Grand Rapids, and what do you think about, potential assistant coaches?
I'm pretty upset about it. I was a big fan. Well, I wasn't a massive fan of Todd Nelson, but like I wanted him as an assistant coach. But I think I may have mentioned this last time, but I think he's just really set on being a head coach. He's been an assistant coach in the NHL before with Atlanta, and he's done that. Been there, done that. He doesn't want to do that anymore, and I respect that. So he's willing to put in a few more years down in the American Hockey League before he gets his chance in the NHL again. I respect that. I wish that the Oilers kept him because he's well liked by the players. They spent time with him in OKC during the lockout. They like him. And then as far as assistant coaches go, I mean, we're hearing Paul McLean, former Ottawa coach, is in the mix there now. I would be okay with that. I think he's another players coach. So I don't know for sure, but I always speculate that assistant coaches have to be players coaches more so than head coaches. But yeah, so I would be cool with Paul McLean coming. That's my opinion. I'd be more than cool with it.
See, I would have loved Nelson to stay with the team, but the simple fact of the matter is that we just signed a very good head coach for the next 5 years. So in a perfect world for Nelson, like maybe in 1 to 2 years he can replace someone on this team. But then again, like it's not going to happen. So at the very least, what he can show to the rest of the organizations and whatnot is that he can go and pick up a slightly better team in the AHL, show success on that, and then he will be in greater consideration for the head coaching role. So this isn't necessarily, in my eyes, in terms of what kind of decision he's making. It's not necessarily the fact of like he's leaving because the organization disgraced him and like didn't pick him or anything like that. It's because he's understanding in terms of what's best for his future success is to go elsewhere. It's to show to the rest of the other 29 NHL teams that, like I was given pretty much very little over here and I managed to make a lot out of it. Now watch me handle much more and then do even better.
Yeah. I think that I don't know who Detroit hired. What's his name? Jeff
Blatzel, yeah.
On those lines. So I think that if he stumbles in the next couple of years and Detroit wants to make a change, like he's already set up to just slide right in there, I think. So that's maybe something to keep in mind for him as well.
Yeah, I think a big part of it, at least with Nelson, was, you talk about him not being upset over being passed over, but I could see that kind of being a factor. I mean, if you think about it, first off, you want proof that we're amateurs. I thought he was not going to Grand Rapids because they had just hired new coaches. I completely forgot about his previous experience. That's part of it, I think, is that Nelson has previous experience with the franchise. So I'd imagine that he's probably more comfortable there. He knows Grand Rapids, or he knows some of the people involved in the organization. So that's probably some familiarity for him. If you're moving, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, if you look at, I honestly don't see Nelson being a head coach of the Red Wings anytime soon, unless like Blaisdell goes off the track so far that they lose like 3 straight years. There's no way.
They don't go for an assistant coach or any other coach else that's available, and they instead go for the AHL coach again.
Exactly. But I could see I could see Nelson going. Well, Carolina is obviously their coach is on rough ground. Claude Julien, you don't want if they do badly, I could see Neely just kicking them out the door. The Penguins just hired a new coach who we'll see how he does. It's really, I think for Nelson at this point it's more or less just biding his time until another coaching position opens
Mm-hmm.
up because you know he's going to get a lot. And as far as Paul goes. Um, I like Paul McLean, but there's a lot of issues sometimes with him as far as veterans go, where he loves gritty veterans and won't play the young guys because of it. And Ottawa's success this year, well, I mean, there was debates about whether or not it was the players and McLean, but the young guys performed significantly better under Dave Cameron than they did under Paul McLean. Kind of like a Eakins Nelson type transition for some of the young guys. I mean, if you look at what Hoffman and Stone did in the second half of the season, it went batshit crazy. So it's kind of like it's that thing where do you want to bring in a coach that could end up helping and is kind of a player's coach, or but could potentially play the old guys more and may favor them. But he's not. I mean, he won't be the head coach. So there's that. But
Okay.
it may be interesting.
Actually, on that point, I actually like if he doesn't go to an EHL position and he actually accepts the job as like an assistant coaching role or whatever they put it out as, I would be more than happy with him being in that position just because he would lack the authority to be able to like prioritize veterans over young players. In that sense, what they can do, like the organization can do, or McLean can do, is like focus on the young players, focus on the first overall picks, focus on the defense, and making sure the defense is moving things appropriately and that kind of thing. And in that sense, I think Paul McLean is very experienced. Where I don't believe there's much of a defense in Ottawa beyond.
Mark Method and Eric Carlson.
Yes, Mark Method and Eric Carlson. But Paul McLean made things work in the years where they made the playoffs beforehand. Honestly, only this year did the whole Phillips problem become really big, where he was constantly playing Chris Phillips instead of playing some other up and coming defenseman. That being said, I also think the emergence of Stone as a player had to do a lot more with the fact that the Ottawa did much better and they made the playoffs and they won a bunch. But you don't know which one is the causation and which
Well,
one is
on,
the
on
actual fact.
on that note, I don't want to interrupt, but a big part of Ottawa's success has been either their offense or their goaltending. And in the past few years, when they've made the playoffs, their goaltending has been unreal. They did so
Mhm.
poorly last year because Anderson and Leonard were horrible. They couldn't
Yes.
stop a shot to save their lives. So like a big part of Ottawa's success wasn't their defense; it was their goaltenders, which is
Mhm.
it's. I mean, McLean had offense when he worked there. I mean, you had Alfredson and Heatley at one point. I think you had Heatley under him. You had Spezza. So like you can look at it and
Did he
say,
have Heatley?
I don't know if he did. I might be wrong on that. I know I
Okay.
absolutely had Alfredson and Spezza.
He did.
So what it is that I like you said. I'm not opposed to him as a head coach. I just have my concerns. It's like everything. I mean, there's
Oh
always
no.
upsides and downsides. I think there's way more upsides to having McLean as an assistant head coach, especially because he's one of the few previous head coaches that are still without a position that would
He
fit really well.
won. Isn't he a Jack Adams winner?
I think so, but the Jack Adams is kind of that thing where it's like if you have a crap team the year before, and your team's good the year after, and then you make the playoffs, it's like you're almost guaranteed it.
Oh, that year he won the Jack Adams. He totally deserved the Jack Adams. It wasn't
Yeah.
like a Patrick Waugh situation because the
What
next
year was
season
that?
as well did fairly like his team did fairly well.
Sorry, James.
What year was that? When did he win the Jack Adams?
I'll
Uh,
check. Keep
I
going.
got it. Do you guys want to start the next topic, or do you have any closing thoughts there, James?
No, no, let's move on. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so the next one would be Stu McGregor being fired by the Oilers. Do you see this as like a coming at a weird time? Is it not necessarily appropriate, or is it about time that he got fired?
The timing is weird. I don't think that there's
Yeah.
any argument about that. I mean, it's less than a week until the draft, but at the same time, I think that he's probably given Most of their, like, I'm sure that their draft lists are basically compiled at this point. I'm sure that they have an idea of who they want at every draft pick. So I mean, yeah. And to answer your second question, there, it's about time. Holy smokes, it's about time that he's gone. I was reading just earlier today, just basically comparing picks, like number of picks to games played for teams from '08 to 14 when McGregor was in charge. And if you take out the first round picks, because Edmonton has had so many number one overall, those are gimmies for games played. If you go second round onwards, I think we're like fourth last in the league, and we've had like a higher number of picks. So I think what it was, we were below average in the number of games that we had played, and I think only Chicago and Nashville had more picks to play with. So fewer games overall, like fewer games played average, as well as a higher number of picks. So just like combining those two things, it's just a recipe for disaster in terms of drafting and development, and it just looked brutal. Yeah, I'm glad that he's gone, honestly.
Side note, going back to the Paul McLean thing, Paul McLean was named a finalist for the Jack Adams um, on April 30th in 2012. He was
He won in 2013.
yeah, he was a finalist with Tortorella and Hitchcock in 2012. Hitchcock won in 2012 and then won in 2013. Yeah. So, all right. So, Arun, about Stu McGregor.
Yeah, see, the McGregor problem that I'm having is from 2013 to 2000, just, I don't know, last Friday was when he was in charge. But according to the so-called rumors and whatnot, many of the picks that ended up going through from 2008 to 2010 wasn't actually Stu McGregor, but it was Tambellini overriding. Oh no, Tambellini was around in. When was Tambellini around? Oh my
He was
gosh.
around in '08. Yeah, about '08 to 2013, I believe it was, or 2013, I want to say. Yeah.
We're not
12.
very good at this, guys.
We're professionals. We know what we're doing. We're definitely not in our kitchens and places like that and randomly recording. But hey, what's it? So during that time, what was actually frequently happening was that a lot of his decisions were being overturned. So that being said, I would argue that Stu McGregor was one of the better scouts on the turn of 2012. Because in 2012, then we started getting third round, fourth round, fifth round. Actually, I can say, actual prospects from every single round except the sixth round. That means we have a prospect in the seventh round. In like every draft that we've had.
Sorry to interject real quick. Sorry,
Combined
Arun.
together from 2012 until last year.
Tambellini was with the Oilers as GM from '08 to 13.
08 to 13. Okay.
April 13th, 2013, it was when he was fired.
Way too fucking long.
Yeah.
Regardless, so that was a lot of decision overturning. But that being said, like 2012 was when we saw like an exceptional draft. I would argue 2013 was arguably an even better draft, and that was when Tambellini was no longer overturning decisions, and pretty much all charge was in the hands of the scouts. So in that sense, like I'm not like if we're looking at the success rates and everything, I don't think we're exactly in a position to say that McGregor was an absolute failure. Because there may be a lot of interference, along with the fact that many of these prospects that we call prospects haven't completely gone on to play yet, and they're maybe 2-3 years away from playing and becoming full-time NHLers, or there might be many years away from actually like 1 year from like deciding that they're probably never going to make it past the AHL level at all. So it matters on how things play out in that regard. But that being said, I don't think McGregor was a key problem or whatnot. But on the flip side, I'm sort of happy because I would be more comfortable with Ciarelli doing what he's comfortable with, as opposed to you do you. I did the name again. Okay, for those of you that didn't catch us, in podcast number 2, the entire podcast I couldn't call Chiarelli
Yes, Shirley.
Shirelli by his actual name. I kept calling him Cesarelli or Chiarelli.
We covered this before, too.
We covered this before the podcast started. We talked about this. We were like, don't call it that. Okay, we got the official pronunciation down. Regardless, I'm happy with him doing whatever he wants, and I'm gonna mute my mic really quickly.
Telephone. All right, so James, did you comment on that?
Yeah,
No.
I gave a quick comment already, but I don't know. I feel like there is some truth to what he said. Like to an extent, the 2014, 13, and 12 draft, like those guys are still developing. Really haven't had much of a chance to prove themselves yet. But 2011, 2010, those guys should be well on their way here now, and like
McGregor was
not,
hard in 08, by the way.
yeah, not quite at the point where what you see is what you get, but I mean, I'm looking here at the 2011 draft picks that we made. David Musil, Sam Hupernin, Travis Iwanek, Dylan Simpson, Tobias Ryder, no longer with the organization, and he's got 72 games played. Martin Gernat, like these are players that I was quite hopeful for at first. Martin Gernat especially, he was with the Oil Kings for a few years, and he looked really good when he was in juniors. But I don't think we're going to get much out of it. In like 2012, Arun was saying that he was very happy with that draft, and I am not happy with that draft even a little bit. I'm not sure what he likes about that draft so much, but yeah, aside from Yakupov being a marginal NHL player, I honestly don't think we're going to get anything else out of that draft. So, yeah.
Yeah, and for me it's concerning because I mean, like Aruna mentioned initially, we had the most picks with the least results, along with like Boston, and I can't remember who else was mentioned, but there's been a couple teams, and mentioning the Boston thing is a little concerning to me because there was someone who was saying he's wondering if Chiarelli's going to bring in his guys from Boston, and it's not like they did a great job because Boston couldn't draft.
Actually, to piggyback on that and to counter that, I think it was user Knucklehead, or
Yeah, I think
whatever, the Boston guy that's really into analytics on Reddit. He pointed out that actually closer to the end of Ciarelli's
Closer. We're getting there.
almost.
eventually his rule in Boston, he started getting more control over like what he could and couldn't draft, and at that point it was actually that Boston managed to find more success in drafting.
All right, that's a fair point. All right, so yeah, all right, so that's I mean, again, it's with the whole rumors thing, but I could see that being more realistic, I guess. I guess, but at the end of the day, like, if we're gonna fire McGregor, what I'm wondering is this is kind of an odd time to fire him. Like, I guess they must have been okay with the he chose and had extra staffing or extra scouting reports or something, because it is. I mean, it's the 22nd. We draft in 4 days, and the only guaranteed pick is McDavid. And what I mean, maybe in my mind that if they're firing him, maybe they figure late round picks are kind of iffy anyway, and they're going to trade a lot of the earlier picks. I don't know if that's flying off the cuff and that nonsensical at all, but it's to me, it's just timing's weird. I mean, to fire a head scout 4 days before one of the biggest drafts in a decade is a little interesting. At any rate, I guess we'll see who replaces him and how it goes. We know that there's going to be some interesting picks this year. Now, like, we'll have to watch this down the road and see, whether how it stacks up to other years where McGregor was in charge, ultimately.
Yeah. In my honesty, like I was thoroughly surprised that like the timing with the draft and everything, but the the scouts were fired first. Like I imagine the pro scouts will be fired first because we need the new set of pro scouts pretty much right away with the um what's Jul-
What
free
is it?
agency coming up. Oh my gosh, words. Free agency coming up. So like that would have been more appropriate to like switch those around. So then the first you fire the pro scouts, figure out the right pro scouts to bring in, like get the draft over with this time around, and then hire like do whatever you need with them and hire the right set of drafting scouts or amateur scouts. So the timing is just awkward for me.
Yeah,
There is a question. I guess we can go on a slightly different route, and I just found this funny, so I just want to say it. User NVEG in our
Oh,
current
God.
Oilers podcast number 3
Mentions in all
asked
caps.
us this wonderful question in all caps. I won't be capturing the nature of the question, but however, I will be respecting the question. What do you think about last night's episode of True Detective? It feels like it's setting up for a marathon of misery in in the desert, whoops, and all those oil tankers makes it look like northern Alberta. I guess this makes Vince Vaughn, Daryl Katz with his real estate scheme, and Trainline paid for by taxpayers. And what about Rachel McAdams? I don't really believe her as a tough guy. It's like Everley playing a thug, taking out dude's knees in the neutral zone. Okay, you messed up first. It's Hall that's sticking out knees in the neutral zone. He actually got suspended for that, didn't he?
Yeah, he
I
did.
think
He
so.
got a game.
Yeah. And I actually didn't know the episode started last night. I feel really bad because I wanted to watch it and then I forgot. But I'm gonna assume yes, and beg that
I don't watch
yes.
the show, so
Yeah, I don't watch. I
And
don't watch True Detective. So,
I heard it's
cool.
good.
really good show.
That was a really
Excellent
big
show.
question.
Yes, thank you, Enveg, for the question. We welcome more questions in the future.
Also, I'm thinking that Arun, for you, might have to start taking shots before podcast to get names right or something.
How many names did I mess up?
You said Shirley 3 different ways.
Yeah, there was another
So
one that
far.
you messed up in there somewhere too. Oh, you called him Daryl Katz.
Yeah, I'll call him Cats because like
Yep.
he's like a cat where it takes him like numerous tries before he finally gets it right.
Okay, let's go with that.
All right.
It's like the
So-
9 lives policy where like when he gets on his last life does he realize, oh, I
Yeah, we're
fucked
gonna
up.
go with that. That's in there. Okay, that's out there. You can't take that back. Anyway,
Oh boy. All right. So moving on to the Cup final, which concluded, I guess it would have been about a week ago. So the Hawks won in 6, which means we all had the right prediction for the finals, which, I mean, it was kind of a given. Games, we both got the games wrong, James and I, unfortunately, but we did get the Conn Smythe winner right. Duncan Keith was
Yeah.
obviously far and away the best player. He was a monster in Game 6. There wasn't really any other competition. I guess you could say if the Bolts won, maybe Tyler Johnson, but even he slowed down. So
yeah.
Keith wins.
Who's
Crawford
injured?
yeah, he broke his wrist. But Crawford was pretty amazing in the finals too. What do you guys think of the series? And was it entertaining? Did you enjoy the playoffs? Let's go. Start with James.
Actually.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Go the room.
Oh, go ahead, Arun. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, I went with Tampa Bay this time. I'm a person of superstition, and every single team that I went with in previous rounds won. And those are teams I'm cheering for, so I wanted Chicago to win, so I went with Tampa Bay. So I got it wrong for all the right reasons. Also, I managed to catch, I think it was 3 out of the 6 games. 2 of them were the ones that Tampa Bay won. On the whole, I felt as though, except for Game 6 and maybe about half of Game 3, I think it was, where Chicago won, I thought Tampa Bay was a better team. But that being said, this Chicago team is going to be something that's going to be talked about for decades to come. It's like the players that are on there are exemplary. This is a set of players that always rise to the occasion and always play ridiculously. And one key thing that stands out for me in all their cup runs is that every single time that they've made it and they won the Stanley Cup, it's been a different Conn Smythe winner.
Really?
Yep. Hayes, Kane, and Keith so far with the 3 they've won.
Wow. Oh, I didn't know that. My thoughts are it was an entertaining finals. Overall, though, I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this. I think the NHL season goes for too long, and they need fewer games in the regular season. I don't think that we should be watching hockey in June. Just my opinion. I do peter out in the regular season. The dog days just go for too long, in my opinion, and then I get amped up again for the finals and the playoffs in general. But yeah, I think the regular season goes for too long, and yeah, I don't know. And with regards to Conn Smythe, Duncan Keith, obviously, like you guys said, he was off the chain. He was unreal. There was really no other choice. Like maybe Patrick Kane, but
maybe Crawford.
There was nobody from Tampa Bay that was pulling a JSG Gare and would be awarded the Conn Smythe on the losing team. So it had to be a Hawk, and Keith was like a pretty easy choice for me. So that made 100% sense.
Cool.
Yeah, I think for me it was very entertaining. I thought Chicago outplayed Tampa for big portions of the series. Obviously, I mean you don't win 6 games or win 4 games in a 6-game span without dominating, unless apparently you're the Jets and you lose 4 somehow without Anaheim leading for more than like 5 minutes. That was impressive. But on a series length thing, or the playoff length, sorry, season length. Try it again. I'm tempted to agree. Like I love, as a hockey fan, I love how long it is because it means we have the shortest off season of any pro sports. Like we go from we started the season in October to the end of the season in April to the playoffs till June. Then we have a week and a half, 2 weeks until a draft, in which you get all the hype, and then you have the draft itself. Then you have free agency starting up, and then summer, and then there's obviously the rookie camps and preseason start within a couple months, and then you're back into the season. And the issue for me is that if you're looking at player health and player safety, recovery time, you're going to miss, like if you have to have surgery, you're going to miss time, but even bumps and like some really bad bruises, if you get injured, you might not be fully recovered, and then if being that competitive, you're going to jump back into the game. And if you're jumping back in with an injury, you can re-aggravate it, and it can ruin your performance. And so it's all these extra factors that, like, if you chop the number of games down to even, like, I don't know, by 10 or 15 games, it makes the season a couple weeks shorter, and the games will still be competitive. There's no worry that the games aren't going to be competitive. These are pro athletes, but it's for me it's the injury aspect, and that nagging injuries towards the end of the season. Like James said, people tend to peter off, and I've never had the same issue because I think I'm over obsessed at times, but it's just the season is very lengthy. We look at the NBA, and I mean it's a different sport, but there's a lot of players that go. I mean, if you look at the finals this year, with the Cavaliers losing
in 6
Love
to
and
State. Oh
yeah.
Injuries.
Yeah, they lost Kevin Love, and they lost Kyrie Irving, and that was pretty much the finals right there. Like LeBron doesn't win by himself. So that's what I'm saying is that injuries happen, but in a shorter season, I think injuries have less of an impact, and maybe that's better for the game.
Oh, hey, yeah, I didn't have to switch that time. Yeah, I agree with that. And in that sense, off of what James and Adam are saying, I would like it if the regular season was shortened, not by that much, maybe even 5 games. Perfect world, 10 games. But the way I see it is that the playoffs shouldn't be changed because a key part of the playoffs, the NHL playoffs, is that injuries happen, and that's how teams are able to adjust to with their depth to the injuries, and that's what makes the playoffs a playoffs, where you can get players that would be nobody players or were poorer players in the regular season suddenly stepping up and becoming amazing, and making up for the fact that a star player is injured or a star player is unable to play at all, or is just doing poorly, like Rick Nash.
He's been known to do that. Yeah, I don't know. I've caught a lot of flack for saying that in the past. People are always like, hockey, 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 always. Ah! I don't know. I can't quite articulate what I would suggest as an alternative number of games, but I think I'd be okay with decreasing it by as many as 10 per season. It's just too much. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's not even like necessarily for the player. I mean, it's obviously for the players, but a big part of it is not all the fans can watch that many games, and that's obviously our problem. But that's 82 games is a hell of a lot of games in a season.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of games. But all right, so I'm gonna have to bring that up at a later date. Maybe if there's rumors about shortening it later. There was a good question. I'm gonna jump to goalies, if that's okay. I know we've been bringing this up, I think, every podcast thus far.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a big issue for the others, so it's rather important. But Bombhands commented on our thread, and he said, "What are your opinions about the sub being so high in Cam Talbot, and should we risk another backup goalie with only 57 games played versus looking to Bernier or Anderson?" And before I mention anything, we should say that all of us have said that we're also on the Talbot train, so we're going to be a little bit biased here, and I'll try to compensate for my bias.
I think James should start because I think he's the one that's the least pro Talbot among us.
Pro Talbot?
So we can just get some variety.
Well, I've kind of backtracked on that actually. There was a little piece that I read a couple days ago that showed Talbot was like his numbers and his performance it's comparable to Scrivens when he was with LA, and it's definitely made me rethink it. I don't think that I hate backtracking and going back to my words because it makes me seem like such a wiener.
No, it just makes you. The way I see backtracking isn't that you're going back and you're making yourself seem flippy floppy. It's that you're learning and then you're appreciating new information sources.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not actually 100% sold on Cam Talbot now. I like the idea of, I think we mentioned this last time when Arun wasn't here, but Jonathan Bernier has really slipped through the cracks. He's not a name that a lot of people think about, but I think he gets a lot of flack because he's a Toronto Maple Leaf and people think that he's absolute garbage, and he's a pretty decent goaltender, and I'm actually coming around to him a lot more than Talbot.
Should I jump up?
All
right. Okay. Total absolute honesty. If we trade the 16th overall for Talbot, we got robbed. That's a simple fact of the matter. The reason that some of us in the sub are really high on Talbot isn't because he's going to be ridiculously amazing and save this organization and become an elite goaltender, because we believe that he has the tools and the skills in order to be successful on the team to the same degree that a Bernier or an Anderson or a Lehner or someone else can be on the team, while costing in a trade significantly less than the rest of them. So with Bernier,
he's still an RFA.
The first thing that's going to be asked when we're trading Bernier is 16th, and if a 16th is not acceptable for us, it's going to be 33rd and some kind of prospect. With Talbot, it can be considered a reasonable trade if it's 57th and Scrivens or something. That's considered reasonable with the Talbot trade. So in terms of Talbot's numbers, quite literally, he's played 2 seasons. On the flip side, that's one of the negative talking points about him, that he's only played 57 games over 2 seasons, and he doesn't look like he can come into the fold and become a #1 goaltender. on that point, Scrivens is still a very good backup. He can take up 30, 40 games in a season, and he'd still do fairly well. But then again, we're talking about Talbot. There is a very good comparison made to another goaltender in the league that is doing absolutely exemplary, playing 64 games last season. Corey Schneider. Corey Schneider, when he was traded to New Jersey Devils, he had played 30 games that season with the Vancouver Canucks. Up to that point with the Canucks, he had only played 87 games over 5 seasons. So the difference between the two goaltenders at that point is 88 games. Yes. 31 games is the difference between the two goaltenders. In the season that he was Talbot was, or Schneider was traded, the 2 seasons per year, he played 33 games and then he played 30 games. I'm doing this all off of memory, so give me a moment here. Talbot played 22 games and 36 games over his last 2 seasons. 22, 36? No, 21, 36. There we go. Math works. So that's what gets him up to 57 games. So if we get him, let him have another season, let's say, with the Rangers and no one trades him or somebody goes off to somewhere else, he'll pick up the rest of those games, and I pretty much guarantee that he's going to do somewhat better than he already has. And at this point, he's already done exemplary. Like his medium and high danger quality chance save percentage is ridiculously high. The only negative talking point that I can really think about Talbot's play is his low danger save percentage, which is around league average. That's the only sort of concern. But other than that, I don't think, we can say, oh, he's behind one of the best defenses in the entire league. But so was Bernier. Bernier was behind one of the best defenses in the whole league. The Toronto Maple Leafs picked him up, and for fairly cheap. What was it, a second-round draft pick? And then he turned out to be exemplary, leading the Leafs into the playoffs. So that's another LA Kings goaltender that was an actual success story. So that's pretty much my talking points on why I'm so high on Talbot. It's just basically that in an actual real world, he should be cheap, and he can provide results based upon what we've seen and the comparables to Corey Schneider. I talked a lot there. Sorry.
Yeah, I really like Talbot. I think more because what I don't understand is how we went from people loving Talbot to now I've seen actually quite a few people saying no, screw Talbot, we don't want him. And they're saying because he's a backup. But the thing is every goaltender in the league started as a backup. You don't have Patrick Waugh without him being a backup. You don't have Carey Price without him being a backup. You don't have Jonathan Quick. You don't every goaltender at some point has been a backup. And I know inexperience is a concerning factor, and we're going from an unproven backup to sticking him as a starter. And what I imagine will happen if we pick up Talbot is that we won't make I don't think we're making the playoffs this year. That's due to a variety of factors, but our defense still has to improve. And Talbot can be as good as he wants, unless he's going to go Carey Price. We're probably not going to make the playoffs. But if we do pick up Talbot, I feel like he's not too much older than the core group we have. He's entering his prime as a goaltender, and he's going to get better. And for me, the comparison to Schneider is huge, where it's a backup who's played enough games to see that he's solid, but not enough to be 100% guarantee. And while picking him up might be a bit of a risk, it may be worth the gamble to whatever team does. Because if somebody is going to pick him up, he's not staying in New York. He's either going to San Jose, to us, or Buffalo. Last time I checked, I think. Yeah. So I think it was Mackenzie had posted a tweet about it earlier. But so those three are one of those three are going to pick him up. And the thing about the Oilers, let me put it this way: Chiarelli knows good goaltending. He knows Tuukka Rask. That may not be, the best point. Probably it's really not. But for me, Talbot is good because he's going to be the next good NHL starter. He's the best backup in the league right now, and eventually you have to make the jump. And that's the thing is that I don't think we can disregard a player simply because he was a backup. It is. I mean, it is. If you look at the stats of Scrivens versus Talbot, it's kind of concerning that Scrivens
Oh.
played. They had similar stats, but the other side of it is Talbot played more games in a row as a backup than most backups did at all this year. The only thing I could think of would be with, like, for example, Calgary, where they had Ramo and Hiller split duties. But even then, like, they would,
That
they would
was
go
a,
for
that was a
switch.
1A 1B kind of
Yeah,
situation,
that's
not
1A,
a
1B. That's not
yeah.
backup starter. So Talbot being able to handle, and like the Rangers didn't just stagnate when Lundqvist went out and Talbot came in. They improved. They became the top team in the league.
They won the President's Trophy.
Exactly. So, to step in and fill the King's shoes like that is it's you can't be some average goaltender even with a good defense in front of you. Now, that may explain why the sub's so high on him. I personally really like him, but I'm also not opposed to Bernier. Anderson's way too inconsistent for me. I've seen him play enough that I don't like him from season to season. He doesn't have bad stretches. He has bad seasons. If he has a bad season, everything down the drain. Last year,
We're talking about Craig, right? Craig Anderson?
Craig Anderson, yes, Craig Anderson.
Isn't he
Frederick
like
Anderson, I don't think is moving. Anham's not moving their goalkeepers this year. I can't imagine their goaltenders. Sorry. Really, the only other options I could think of that we might get is Bernier, Talbot, or
Leonard.
yeah, Leonard. Leonard's the other one, which
Still a backup.
still a backup exactly. And that's the other thing is that people are pushing for Leonard, and Leonard's kind of that injuries with backup, more experience, but still a backup kind of thing. It's for me, I have an issue when people say it's a backup because unproven I can understand, but every starter has to go from backup to starter at some point.
People are bouncing around a lot of names. I mean, if you think of almost any, not any, but like a lot of names around the league, you can almost make a case for almost anyone to be traded. I mean, people are
Carey Price.
like Harry Lettinen from down there in Dallas is on the block, and he's got a cap hit of like 5.9 or 5 point something. It's pretty ridiculous, and he's wildly inconsistent as well. And going back to Craig Anderson, he's got to be like 34 now. 30.
I can check.
Yeah,
Don't worry.
Just 30s at least. I mean, no, too old, man. Like, I'm not interested in Craig Anderson. Robin Lehner,
34.
He's got his injury issues. He's never really came into his own either. It seems like he's been around forever, but he's still only like 20, 24. I don't know. It's just sort of like Jakob Markstrom at the same time. Like, come on, are you gonna ever step up? But I guess, like you said, you got to be a backup before you're a starter. So
I think in a perfect world, what we can have is we get Talbot and Niemi, and we somehow manage to get rid of Scrivens. That way, if Niemi, his problem that I'm seeing with Niemi, and everyone's like really like high up on him, and we should get like a proven starter and whatnot. But if we compare like the two teams, even through the defense, and we look at adjusted save percentages and things along those lines, Talbot played better than Niemi both of the last 2 seasons. Mind you, Niemi played 63 games to Talbot's 36
a lot more.
games. Yeah. But that also had to do with the fact that the backup goaltender was Stalock, so good luck with that.
isn't Talbot away or 1 year away from UFA status as well?
Yeah, that's another reason that his cost is really low, because you can't negotiate a contract with him until January. So because no teams have that guarantee that Talbot's going to stay with the team, it's the reason that his cost is so low, and no one is like, the only way that it can actually, I think, if possibly go up is if it's artificially inflated by the three teams competing with each other for Talbot.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But sorry, go ahead, Adam. Go. Yeah.
I was going to say that's kind of the other concerning part is that I mean, I can understand why people are hesitant on Talbot. Unproven necessarily, he's similar stats to Scrivens, all that stuff, but the other big one is that he is a UFA, and what if he comes here and decides not to sign with us in January, then we spend whatever we spend on him, lose potentially a prospect, a couple good picks, and a really deep draft on a goalie who's going to play 1 season and then dip.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's
so
27, entering his prime. He's never he's never had a big contract before. Like if he has a good season, if we traded for him and he has a fantastic season, this is his career contract. This is his big money maker. He's going to be looking like probably like 6x6. Like that's
Yeah, like Dubnik.
yeah, exactly. Whether or not he deserves it, is up for debate, but he'll be looking for it, and that's his right, as he's never had a really big money NHL contract before. And then Niemi, I believe, his last contract was 4 point something, I believe. So I don't know. That's some expensive blue ice there.
There's like that's the other thing with Bernier is that he's an RFA, so you could trade for him, sign him, and then he'd be ours for the next foreseeable future, and he is a good option in that. So the goaltending thing is kind of up in the air, I think. But I still, my order is still Talbot, Bernier, and then Elliott, Leonard. I prefer Elliott over Leonard, but I don't think Elliott's going anywhere right now, as from the sounds of it. There's been no rumors about him since he said he wasn't happy in St. Louis. So
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Elliott just because I don't know if we're gonna get former Ottawa Senators goalie Elliott or we're gonna get exemplary Jennings winning goaltender Elliott. And that's where my big question mark comes in. The Niemi point that I was making, so that's sort of like a perfect world where we'll get Niemi for like 2 to 3 years, and if Talbot becomes that exemplary starter that we need, then Niemi, like we can do whatever we decide to do with Niemi.
yeah.
But that's sort of like a testing as well as an actual fallback that we have.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Last point on the goaltenders, I think, before we move on, because we've been on this one for like the last, I think, 15 minutes now.
Yeah.
Is I went through all the goaltenders yesterday, starting goaltenders in the NHL. So ones that either played more than 40 games for their team and started, or is the undisputed starter, and then teams that had 1A, 1B. So I think I ended up with 34 goaltenders, I think, something like that. But of those drafted, the average draft position was 83.7. So that's where the average goalie in the number, so it's number, and then the average round was 3.17. So that kind of makes sense. However, the standard deviation is massive.
It's
There's
like 2.
83.274 for standard deviation,
That's
which
massive.
means that it means it goes from first overall with Marc-Andre Fleury to like 160 something. That's an average. There's still some that are outliers. Like there was a couple around 200 and something. But the average,
Did you look at the median?
no, I didn't look at the median. The median is kind of that it's useful, but it's not. I don't really like median unless we're talking specific stuff. I do have it.
Like if
I
it's
have
not a
to pull it up
standardized
sometimes.
curve, then the median will.
Yeah, well, what I'm gonna do, I think, is after we're all done this, I'm gonna plug in the numbers and make a graph out of it and stick it in the podcast thread. So we'll do that. But there was also, interestingly enough, there was 5 undrafted goaltenders who were deemed starters right now, and that's Hiller, Scrivens, Niemi, Lack, and Bobrovsky. And those are all 5 of those guys were undrafted.
Sorry, I didn't get that last name.
Bobrovsky.
Bobrovsky. Sorry, I miss him.
Voodoo, man.
All right, so we're moving on because that was way too long. So
Nah, it's a good topic though, so I like that.
yeah, no, that's the thing. It's good discussion.
Yeah.
The draft, 4 days away. Are you gonna be watching it?
James, you go first. I overtook you last
I
time.
am definitely going to be watching it. I've already got my plan. I'm going over to a coworker's house and we're gonna watch it. And I think that TSN or whoever televises, I'm not even sure if it's TSN anymore, but I think they
NBC.
only televise the first round. So I'll watch all of that, and yeah, I will definitely be screaming about it on Reddit as it goes along, because the Oilers will definitely not choose who I want them to pick with number 13 or 16 overall, and every other team that I hate will draft who I like, and yeah, so I'm definitely gonna watch it, but I'm probably gonna hate it.
I'm thinking about going to that draft party thing, but I don't really know anyone else that's going, so I have no idea whether or not I want to go.
I think there's a couple people in the sub going.
Yeah.
Are there?
Do
Yeah.
like a
Give me a
meetup.
shout. Give me a shout. By the way, if you know me on Facebook, give me a shout on Facebook. If you know me only on Reddit, give me a shout on Reddit. Just let me know if you're going, or on Twitter if you're into that kind of thing. But yeah, I'm gonna be watching. That's for sure, regardless of whether or not I go.
Yeah, how can you not watch? Honestly,
The
to me
biggest
it's the
draft
most
in a decade.
exciting.
The
It's the most
Connor
exciting draft as
McJesus.
a whole to me.
How?
Yep.
Oh, I was gonna say after so I'll be watching. I'll probably sit down with a couple of beers and just watch. The other part of it is I'm gonna keep my Twitter open because there's more than likely gonna be movement with either the 16th or the 33rd overall pick.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm gonna have to write it down and probably write a piece for the podcast. Just so I don't forget. But yeah, no, I won't be watching the 27th. Probably watching the 26th just because I mean McDavid. Um, how much do you want to bet that there'll be at least a half dozen rumors that McDavid is going to look pissed or he's annoyed with the fact that he's going to Edmonton as he's
Oh
smiling for the
God.
picture and he's
It's
making a
not just
smile.
gonna be a half dozen. It's gonna be like
Yeah,
multiple,
you're
many.
undershooting it, man. I think it's
Oh
gonna
my
be. I think it's gonna
god.
be a lot more than half dozen.
Yeah,
But
it's just
no.
it's going to be a shit show. Oh, okay. That was
We're
interesting.
switching. We're switching manually. It's such like two people switching manually. Um, yeah, it's gonna be an absolute shit show because there's a lot of the key problem with it is that what a team or a person or organization deserves, and what a team or an organization or what actually happens are two different things. So there's like this attitude that's around with some of the media in the league, media for other teams that were doing poorly and we're hoping to get Canadian super promise Connor McDavid. Um, and they are going to find some kind of justification and some kind of loophole where maybe they can like pull it off in some kind of perfect world, set it up in a way where the media is always against him, and it's they're not against him because he's like doing poorly or like a bad player, but because he's playing in Edmonton, and hopefully they can set it up in a way where he'll get traded to their team. Hint,
Yeah.
hint, nudge, nudge, Toronto.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just I'm gonna get tired of it pretty quick, but at the same time, it's gonna be kind of nice.
It'll be
Yeah,
hilarious.
everyone jealous of us. Ugh. Um. Anyway, so with that said, do we want to move on to our mock drafts? Or, I
Sure.
mean, we didn't really do mock drafts so much as say who we prefer and who we didn't want to draft with our positions. Um, I don't know the prospects as well as I think you guys do. I know I
I
definitely don't
don't
know them
know
as
them
well
that
as
well. Sorry, I don't know.
Okay. That
Yeah.
works for me then. All right, so
Uh,
I know there was a couple people posted the mock draft thread. People on the sub seem to be leaning towards picking up either Killington, Roy, or Carlo at 16, and obviously McDavid first overall. But after that, it gets kind of split. Um, so with that said, I think for me, I'd want obviously McDavid. Stupid not to. 16th overall, I'd have to say Brendan Carlo is kind of my favorite at this point. He's a gigantic, massive, fast skating right-handed defenseman, and he'd be NHL ready within 1 to 2 years. Um, this is kind of where the whole go play in the WHL thing comes in, where it's either he plays in NHL or WHL, and I hate that.
Hmm.
Um, he's
So
too good for the
annoying.
NHL. He has to play in the AHL. I don't know. Anyway, so that's another topic. But with the 33rd, I can see us trading it for something, or as a package with someone. I could see it going for, if we do trade for Talbot, I could see Shirelli being willing to give up the 33rd and a prospect for Talbot. New York, obviously, they're looking for some centerman, maybe even Marincin. That'll be interesting, but I can see us using the 16th overall, and I can see us trading the 33rd or the 57th. As for Vladimir Tkachev, I guess we were going to talk about who picks we should stay away from. Tkachev for me is still desirable. He was rated a late fourth round in North American skaters last time I checked, so I'd be okay with us getting him in the fourth. It'd be even a bit of a reach, maybe using Montreal's fourth, but I don't want to use a high anything. I think higher than Montreal's fourth would be too much of a stretch for him. We know what he
Sorry,
can
who was
do,
that
but
for? Vladimir.
Tkachev.
Uh,
Bloody hockey, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Laddie
the other
hockey
one,
first overall, baby.
oh God, no. The other one for me is Samsonov at 16. If he's available at 33, grab him, but not at 16.
No.
I mean, if you can't trade an available goaltender for 16th, if that's an overpay, then it'd be ridiculous to draft a goaltender at 16. I know
That's
they're
not
different
going to
price
be.
points, but
Yeah,
no.
that's not going to be playing for years to come, and it's like a really dumb way to address the fact that the goaltending pool for the Oilers has been poor. But this is also an offseason already that we have was it a Finnish goaltender. We've never had a really good Finnish goaltender before. We have actually fuck, god damn it, I'm forgetting all the
Brossoit.
names today. Brossoit, LB. Yeah, he's really starting to come into his own. And now we're saying goodbye to Bachman. Um, and we're going to be seeing how well Brossoit and whatever Elliott or whatnot his name is can really come into their own. Um, so in that sense, I don't think drafting a goaltender right now in the first round will address any problems that the Oilers have. I think it's more effective in second or maybe even third round, especially considering the fact that, as Adam pointed out, goaltenders pretty much can be drafted all across the place. Sometimes it's the luck of a draw. Sometimes you just uh, picked up via good drafting.
Um, for me, I guess one guy I've had a major man crush on for a couple months now is Oliver Kylington, the Swedish defender. He has drawn comparisons to Oliver Ekman Larsson, and that's incredibly lofty, but
It
that's just the
is.
comparison I've heard. And from my own YouTube viewings, which are not worth much, but he reminds me a lot of Kimmo Timonen. He's like not a big guy, but he's really smooth skater, really great passer. He's able to slow the game down and just really he he looks smart on the ice. He never looks panicked. So I've had a man crush on him for months now. And then the opposite end of that, someone who I like have an unnecessarily strong avoidance to is Paul Bittner. He is a left winger for the Portland Winterhawks in the WHL, and he was over a point a game this last year, 71 in 66. It looks like here, but there's concerns about his skating, his work ethic, and he played on a team with Oliver Bjorkstrand, Nick Patan, Chase DeLeo. Like that's three fantastic players that he's got as teammates. So it's hard not to wonder like how much of that is due to your teammates. So to me, that's a hard avoid. But if Kylington is there at 16, I would do it. And then with number 33, yeah, God, if that Russian goalie is there, I think I would do it. Samsonov, excuse me. Sorry.
um, I think at 33, Samsonov probably won't be available. I'm gonna guess he's going mid 20s.
Yeah, I
Um,
be there either.
where are the Sharks drafting this year?
I guess it would be like 12th or so. I'll look it up real quick here.
Yeah.
It is ninth.
I'd imagine that if they trade for like a mid 20s pick, they go for him. I don't think the Sharks do that, but I don't see him getting past the first round. There is Mackenzie Blackwood, who there's been a lot of debate about because he didn't have fantastic stats this year, but he's also only 18, and goaltenders tend to take time to
Uh-huh.
develop. And he's the best available uh, goaltender in the of North American skaters.
Uh-huh.
Now, whether we take him at 33, I think is still drafting him too high. I think he's ranked mid 20s, but I'm not entirely sure. And I don't know if we should bother getting him at 33. I think we should maybe pick a goalie in the third round, if we have nothing else going as far as trades or anything goes. But I don't know. Like it's this weird thing where goaltenders aren't necessarily the priority right now, even though we do still need them in the system.
Uh, yeah, I don't know. Like you said, I mean, goaltenders we need. I don't know about more, but like we need to start really hitting on them. I
We
don't know
need
if we've.
quality good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's easier said than done, right? Like I
Hmm.
can't think of anyone that we've drafted as a goalie that's actually turned out well since
Dubnik.
Dubnik.
Dubnik. Yeah, and since then, what have we had? Like Tyler Bunns, Samu Perinen. There was another Finnish goalie, a
Def
couple
Dunham, Delorier.
Delorier. Oh my
Yep.
God. Yeah. So I don't know if we have the capability to draft a good goaltender. It's just so hit and miss. It
It goes
just,
back to drafting.
yeah, it really does. I don't know.
So, I mean, since 2008, we haven't had a goalie turn out out of the ones we drafted. I don't think any of them have even played a game for us.
Yeah.
Dubnik is the only one.
Did we draft Ty Rimmer?
Don't
Ty
think
what?
so.
Ty Rimmer.
No, I don't remember. Hold on.
I got it. Arun, what do you think?
No, we.
I'm of the opinion, and this is not an opinion I had at the beginning, but I'm of the opinion that if we can get the right trades off, the pick should be more trade bait than anything else. And this has to do with the fact that we've got some prospects lined up. We've got a lot of young players set up. What we really need now is people to step into those number 1 and number 2 roles and things like that. We need like that number 1 defenseman. We need that number 2 defenseman. We need that number 1 goaltender. And if that's what it takes in order for us to get that piece, then that's what it takes. That's what we need to give up. I also think that it's going to be like it might not be absolutely best for the organization right now. Like that pick could turn out to be the next Jordan Eberle or Corey Perry or whatnot. But even if that turns out to be the case, like it's worthwhile. Like if the organization doesn't make the playoffs in like the next 2-3 years, then it's like even organizationally, it's going to be absolutely horrible.
Fire sale. That's what's going to happen. Ty Rimmer, by the way, was undrafted, but he signed a contract with the Condors on May 27th of this year.
Yep.
So he's still in the HL for us, but I think he's up behind Lorkainen and Brossois on the draft on the
He was
depth
playing
charts.
in Bakersfield with the Condors last year, so.
Yeah. As a heads up, we've been going for about an hour, so we'll have to cut it off in about 30 max.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Pretty soon, if we can. By the way, I need to pick up my mom.
Yep. So we'll cut it at before 1 o'clock.
Cool.
Okay, moving on. That's actually all the main topics we had today, so we'll go on to the secondary ones. Now, do you want to start in Arizona or do you want to start in Vegas?
Let's start Vegas.
Okay, so Vegas bookies have us in the playoffs next season. Is that realistic or is it an overestimation or do you think we can make it with the current lineup? Because that's what they're projecting it on so far is our draft pick and then not much else.
The way I see it with the Vegas one is that Vegas entirely depends on like what's hot right now. So big part of Vegas betting in terms of how it works out is not that it's the actual odds to win or the odds to be the number 1 or whatnot. It's that who's betting how much and on who. So that's how the Vegas thing works out. So one of the key things that's coming up for the Oilers recently, and many things that have happened for the Oilers, is that there's a coaching change, there's a GM change. We're going to be drafting arguably the best player since Crosby. There's a lot of good things coming to this organization very quickly. So when all of that happens over a very short time frame, there's going to be a lot of GMs going like, okay, I've got a good chance with this team. The ratings are low, but they could just make the miracle run. This guy could be the second coming of Jesus. And this coach can win the Jack Adams, and everything else could be absolutely amazing with this team. So in that sense, everyone, like whatever, like the Vegas bookings and whatnot come up, it always needs to be pointed out. This is actually the result of arguably more media than actual chances, and that's just the way it plays out.
I never really thought about that. But it makes total sense. I mean, Vegas is all about, betting and what's popular and what's hot right now. And it makes total sense because Edmonton's had such numerous positive changes. Like, why wouldn't they bet on us to make the playoffs? But to actually answer the question, um, no, I don't think that we will make the playoffs next year. Chiarelli, McDavid, um, those are positive changes for sure. But I don't think that players like Clefbaum and Nurse, to a lesser extent Davidson, um, are going to be enough to shore up the blue line, and there's just not enough there. So no. Short answer is no. I do not believe we'll make the playoffs next year, but I don't
Uh,
think it'll be a laughing stock either.
no, no. I just double checked NHL Insider. They have us at 20th right now, so we're out of the playoff position.
Yeah,
Oh, the one posted
Just
on
like
the
every second month
Oilers
of
sub
Oilers.
was
out of the
different.
lottery, but not in the playoffs. Right where you don't want to be.
Well, I was where is it? For me, I think like you said, it's kind of dependent on media as much as anything else.
Mm.
And with all the changes with Shirley, McClellan, McDavid, even I don't think it'll be enough. I've said it before. I think it'll be at least another year or 2 years before we make the playoffs. I think we'll push next year. This year, I think we'll end up probably. I'm gonna guess Vegas probably isn't far off from where we'll end up. I'm gonna guess low to mid 20s. Like we won't. I don't think we'll be any lower than 25. Assuming we actually get a goaltender and at least one half decent defenseman. But Vegas, I mean, they also predicted the Bruins and the Kings had the best chance to win the cup this year, and now the team even made the playoffs. So it makes sense
Well,
that it's more of a hype
arguably,
than
though,
anything
they were
else.
the best teams ever to miss the playoffs.
Bruins were, yeah. Well, I mean, they had the most points.
The
Whether they were the
Kings were.
best, whether they were the best, I mean, no, the
Yeah,
Bruins. I thought the Bruins had the most points
yeah.
to ever miss the playoffs. But
Mhm.
the Kings were good. But the problem with the Kings is they go OP in the playoffs, but their regular seasons are never
It's hot
fantastic.
streak, cold streak.
Yeah. The Bruins, however, with all the injuries they had, they came back, they started dominating again, and then they lost out to the Sens. But which, okay, but yeah, I don't know. I don't see us making it next year. I don't think Vegas was ever really right about that. I'm gonna double check because I thought I found it on the Oilers sub. But okay, and then if you guys want to talk about the Vegas hockey team thing,
Okay, Vegas hockey team. I understand the absolute potential in it. There's a relatively larger population in Las Vegas. Uh, there's an AHL team there and an ECHL team there.
AHL, I believe.
AHL, and it's well followed. They have a reasonable attendance. But the one thing that I think a lot of people are missing out on the discussion of whether or not there should be an NHL team in Vegas is that
AHL,
there's
sorry.
a big step between AHL level and the NHL level. Uh, the last thing, like we're seeing it right now with the Coyotes, is that the last thing you want is to set up an organization for failure from the start. And this isn't just failure in the sense of like setting themselves up in a location where hockey isn't that big of a sport, and then hoping that it grows out from there, but also setting them up in a way where um, like there's not enough marketing, there's not enough priority given, that kind of thing, um, and it's not done effectively. So all of those things are big question marks, and on top of that, a big part of their sales, because it's Vegas, is going to come from tourist sales. So as soon as we get to a dipping point in like an economy or whatnot, where there's not a lot of people traveling, that's going to be a huge impact for that team. Um, but mind you, in a perfect world, things play out. Hockey grows in Las Vegas. The team becomes hugely popular. In a realistic world, we might get a situation slightly better than Phoenix, or not Glendale, sorry, but we might get one that's even worse than that. And that's my fear. That's sort of my big talking point.
hmm I was sort of thinking the same thing. Like a team in Las Vegas is reliant on it's reliant on the overall economy, just like every other team is, but I
Mhm.
think to a larger extent because Las Vegas, it has so many people coming and going all the time. Canadians go down to Las Vegas for 3 or 4 days, like no problem. And if they go to Vegas and they want to see a hockey game, I mean, tickets are going to be like $20, and you can do that. But you see it in Alberta here now. People are getting laid off left, right, and center. They're moving back to Ontario or Newfoundland or whatever, and these trips to Vegas are not happening. And so you're more reliant upon the actual population of Las Vegas and getting grassroots, popularity, I suppose, in Las Vegas. I think is going to be a really tough sell. Um, I'm not sold on it at all. I don't think I would do it, but that's my opinion.
By the way, with the Vegas bookies thing, I have the article I have as has us at 17th at 33 to 1 odds. So I think
Really?
that's yeah, so that's just out of the playoffs. Um, I'll post. It's on the Oilers sub is one of the posts on the front page. So I'll post the link in the discussion after we're done. But for me, desert hockey is good and bad. Um,
It's
I
like the
think
Cam Talbot situation.
yeah. Well, we'll talk about Arizona after and that whole crap storm that's just happened in the last 2 weeks. But with Vegas, it's a there's a lot of issues where it's like population. No, it's a good population. There's issues of tourism, and yeah, tourism is going to drive ticket sales. But I mean, even Arizona's starting to develop a fan base, and I mean, Glendale is they probably have the worst rink location in the league. The only reason Ottawa is so successful is because it's in Canada. I mean, that rink, it takes me I'm a 20-minute drive, and it takes me an hour and a half to bus there on a game day. You can't drive to that end of the city for more, and it takes you more than 55 minutes to get down there from downtown because of the traffic. And it's and this is a capital city with a hockey rink out in the middle of nowhere. And I'd use an expletive, but yeah. So the issue is I think for a big part of it is the rink location where and the city of Glendale's being just ridiculous about it. But hockey in Vegas is that one where it's like it could create issues off the ice for players, but that's also not necessarily a thing that will happen. That's not a guarantee and not a good reason to limit a team from going there. There's the ticket sales from the traveling fans, but that's not necessarily a bad thing either. I mean, you look at the Leafs fans. Anytime there's a game anywhere, there's at least there's a good chunk of Leafs fan there. Like Sens games are half and half when Leafs are here. Um, there's some teams travel well. I saw the Oilers game in Ottawa. There was still a solid number of Oilers fans, more Oilers fans than any other they travel better. Oilers fans traveled better than any other team I had seen play in Ottawa, with the exception of maybe the Bruins, and that was about it. Even during the playoffs, there were less Rangers fans at the game than I saw Oilers fans at a game in the middle of the season in one of the worst seasons we've ever had as a franchise. So a lot of it is that fans traveling is going to be a big part of it. There's people that live down there have real estate. So I think 10,000 season ticket sales without having the casinos involved it's good. It means there's interest there. As long as I think the rink's in a good spot. So it'll take time to build fan base, but I think it's an option. The other side of it is you have to pull the plug if it's not going well. And a big issue I have
Yeah.
with Bettman right now is that Bettman's great for the league. He's grown the league and everything, but he doesn't know when to give up, especially with Arizona.
There's a counter argument there. Atlanta. But
Yeah,
continue.
yeah, but I mean Atlanta they were so bad for so long and they had so many issues that like it was inevitable. And that's the thing is that you have to know what I'm talking about
Oh,
with if you set up a franchise
uh,
in Vegas.
official news. Oilers have fired Dave Semenko, pro scout, and advisor Billy Moores.
Hmm. All right, some more changes.
Okay.
Sorry, I'll finish my point before we go on to that then.
Yeah.
Setting up if you're gonna set up a team in Vegas and they struggle for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, you have to pull the plug. You can't fund them until they succeed. You have to get rid of them. Not get rid of them. You have to move the team. Like you can't. sit there and hope they succeed and pray they succeed for however many years. You have to just get them out eventually. Put them in Seattle, put them in Milwaukee, put them in Quebec City. I don't care. Just if a team's not working, relocate them because it's going to cause issues for the league.
Fair enough.
Yep, Arun.
I think that's solid. I think we got everything we wanted to talk about. And on the flip side, though, with the Las Vegas thing, this is sort of like the potential dangers kind of situation. Like, if it succeeds, that's fantastic, but that's also a perfect world situation, where like we're talking about the absolute best thing that can happen. But within that too, we need to talk about the absolute worst thing that can happen, and what's likely to happen, and that's where all our question marks that we're talking about are coming up. So apparently some pro scouts have been fired, but I've yet to receive actual word on it. I'm gonna check up on that. Why don't you guys pick up on what's going on at Glendale right now?
All right, Jim, do you want to start there?
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, didn't the city council vote to get out of their lease for that arena? Is that how that went?
Basically, what happened is the city of Glendale decided that they were going to try. They wanted to get out of the lease with the arena. Then the Coyotes organization countersued and got a restraining order filed, meaning they can still use the arena and still host the season if the lawsuit's still going on, which more than likely will be. So the Coyotes don't seem like they're going anywhere for at least the next season. How the court case plays out will be interesting, but basically they're trying to get it out of a law-abiding agreement at this point.
Yeah. Uh, I don't know. I've been back and forth on the Arizona Coyotes for years. I mean, on one hand, they've been propped up, um, losing millions and millions of dollars every single season, but there is a market there. In Arizona, the state of Arizona, it's huge, and the potential is there. I still believe that, and I understand. I don't necessarily agree, but I understand why Bettman has been so stubborn about it. But overall, like I think it's pretty done. I don't know where you would move the team, maybe to like Seattle or something. Try and keep it in the West, but yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sick of the Arizona Coyotes, to be honest with you, and I hate saying that because they the team gets a lot of flack, and I know that in threads in r/hockey, everyone's always piling on and saying how they should have been moved years and years ago. But I mean, like, enough is enough. This team has just been in limbo for years, and it's not working.
One thing I want to talk about with that, I still haven't found any source on the firings of the pro scouts yet, so no, not official.
I think that was
Uh,
part of the firing yesterday, was it not?
no, this
No,
is
this is
something
new.
that's happened recently. Like there's a conference that's going to be happening at 2 today, about that, and that's official. Um, my like the one thing that's been brought up sort of is that the way that Glendale handled it from the very beginning was really bad. That's the best way to put it. It's not a matter of like Glendale can't get out of a contract or shouldn't get out of a contract or should stay in the contract. It's a matter of at the very beginning, they went for the underdog story in terms of like helping a club and like growing the community and being like really awesome and everything. But what they didn't take into account was having actual knowledge about what's going to happen in the future, what's the success going to be of the club going to likely be like, not a best kind of situation, and all those things. And that's at that point that they realize that, oh no, we're going to lose all the money, and we're not going to get reelected, and most of the majority of the people in the city don't like us for this. So when all that comes through, like this is because of the population. And when your local people are mostly not on your side, that's not really good for the hockey team. That being said, I think the worst thing that can happen to the Coyotes happened already, and that's moving from Phoenix to Glendale. So if a move back can ever happen, like that's the first thing that should.
Yeah, I think for me it's that thing where it's like I don't ever want a fan base to lose their team because I can't imagine how devastating it'd be just to have your favorite team up and leave. Um,
Yeah.
with the teams I follow, I don't really have to worry about that because they're generally pretty big teams. Steelers in the NFL aren't going anywhere. Man United is the biggest team on the planet right now, and the Oilers are just the city would burn to the ground if the Oilers left. So that's not happening. But with Arizona, it's that thing where they're starting to develop a fan base, but that rink, like I said, is just out in the middle of nowhere. It needs to move.
Hmm.
I think if Bettman still insisted on Arizona, and we see Austin Matthews is probably going to drive up a lot of interest next year, especially if Arizona is still this bad and they have a chance to draft him. They'll probably drive up interest, but you can't keep the city. If the city of Glendale is going to be like this towards the organization and the team and the fans, you can't keep them in that city. You got to move them back to Phoenix. And I think for me that's the key point here. If you're not going to move them back there. Otherwise, I'd love to see a team in Milwaukee. Kansas City's a possibility, although I think less so. Uh, Seattle, and I really want to see Quebec City team again, but I guess we'll find out. I think Quebec City's going to be the backup for either Arizona or Vegas. I don't see them getting an expansion team in the next few years.
An expansion team? No, I could talk forever about that. Maybe that's something we can cover next time, whether or
Yeah,
not
I'll
the
probably I'll probably put that on the
gonna.
list for next time. Actually,
So, can we just wrap up real
yeah, I
quick?
was
Yeah,
just about to,
let's
do
let's
that. Yeah. So, for the next one, I'm not sure. We don't have a date set yet, but we are looking into doing a post draft podcast. I think we'll do one. I think within the next week or so. I have no class until the 6th, so I'm good for that. Realistically, we just have to get enough topics together, have enough discussion to where we could be feel comfortable and give it a go.
I think by that date, there's going to be so much activity going on where like everything's going to be happening. For those of you that are catching us at the last second, sorry, we're just about to finish up. There is going to be an official Oilers broadcast or a press conference happening at 2 o'clock today. So pay attention to that. I'm pretty sure it's going to come up somewhere online. The rumor is it has something more to do with the scouts and whatnot. No official word yet. So enjoy that. And regardless, it's been me, Arun. You can finish up and say statements and whatnot.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it here for us. I think that further to what Adam said, we'll do a post-draft pre-UFA edition, so that only gives us like pretty small window there to operate
About
in.
a week
I'm
and a
sure
bit.
that we'll be able to throw something together. So watch for that, and then obviously we'll keep you updated in the Edmonton Oilers subreddit, and yeah, that's about it. Thanks for
I,
watching.
I think we're supposed to do this now because we're on YouTube. Be like and subscribe.
Oh yeah,
Please like,
follow us
comment,
on Twitter.
subscribe, give us money, and
Twitter.
so we can
No, we
stop
don't
being
monetize
homeless
our
people
videos.
Twitter.
watching on what like recording from our kitchens while we're
Uh,
cooking.
I'm in my room. I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway,
I'm in the
uh,
kitchen.
well,
It's
like,
majority kitchen, kitchen
oh,
master race right now.
how it is. Anyway, so we'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. This was our Oilers, and have fun at the draft, boys.